All right, welcome back. So, I've got a project that I'm trying to do here, and obviously I got a new camera because you just saw me zoom in, but I say it's new to me. It's not a new camera, but anyway, YouTube, or not YouTube, but eBay. Yes, I've got something playing in the background. It's just an audio book on YouTube. I use it as like a background noise, and we'll see how it works out. Anyway, so we're here there we go. My next plan. Remember, I made a comment in the video when I first started that I'm going to try something that I've never done. Well, here we are. This is what I've never done. I'm going to make resin castings of these parts. These are just some small parts that I'm going to try to light. And then this, because I am lighting the model, and this is one of the things it's a lighted thing. But instead of drilling all these windows that I've got marked here, I wasn't gonna drill out every single window. And if you see, those windows are very, very small. Okay, very, very small. So, that being said, I'm gonna try something else. I'm going to cast this in a clear resin. All right, and so if everything works out and it turns out the way I hope it turns out, it'll be an exact duplicate of this, just in clear. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of light blocking on the inside like you would normally do when you're going to drill out windows, is I'm going to light block the outside and scratch out the windows. Okay, and I got that idea from a fella who did the Bandai Death Star, the second one, the Death Star, the second Death Star, the one that was partially built. And what he did is he was lighting that, and what he did is he obviously lit the inside and then painted the outside, and then he went and scratched out all the windows on the Death Star. So you talk about tedious. And that's where I got that idea from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this in clear, these pieces here in clear too, and I'm going to light block the outside and then scratch off what I want, what windows I want to scratch off. Because I'm not going to do, depending on how tedious it is for this, I'm either going to do the few that I've got marked just so it looks like that because the windows only go this far. That's why there's none back here. So, light block the outside real good, scratch out the windows, and then it'll glow from the inside, and I won't have to do all that drilling and carrying on. So, that being said, my plan is to make a two-part cast of these. Like I said, I have to glue these. I'm going to glue these back onto the tree with some like hot glue or something, just temporarily. These never broke off. These broke off in processing. And I'm going to do a two-part casting of these and in clear, and then they're going to be something else, and I'll show you later on. But yeah, I've never done this. Never. I've watched videos and so forth, and this is my first attempt at doing this. So, got my gloves. Yeehaw. So, this will either be a very surprising success or a resounding failure. So, making this mold, it's a time-consuming process because the molding silicone, and that's what I've got, the silicone. Let me zoom out a little bit. silicone, and you mix it by volume. So even amounts of this and even amounts of that. There's no weighing it out or anything like that. And then I've got the resin stuff that'll be later, because this takes a good 6 hours to cure, and then at least another few hours to completely cure and do what it's supposed to where you can use it. So it's going to be a time-consuming process, and I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing. I'll just come back periodically and show you my progress. So, and some other things that I'm using. You see the Play-Doh. You'll see how I'm using that. And I've got some Legos. Because if you're like, well, you're going to make a mold, you need some sort of a box or something to put it in. Yeah, that's what the Legos are for. And I'll show you that. I'll show you that as we get to that point. But anyway, so just hang tight. Like I said, this is going to be a process, and I'm going to check back in as I progress, and we'll go from there. All right. So, all right, we're back. So as you can see, let me zoom this in a little bit here. As you can see, I've made what I'm hoping will work. A mold out of, yes, that is Lego. That way I don't have to have something specific. But, yeah. So, it's not a perfect thing, and I'll probably have a lot of flashing that I'm going to have to get rid of when the time comes. But, yeah, so the little holes in there, yeah, dang it. Oh, well, anyway, you can see the holes. I'm hoping those will work like, mold locks, because I'm going to make this in 2 parts, obviously. And so, and I've used tape to seal up the cracks between the bricks, and I'm hoping that'll work. But we'll see. Again, this is my first attempt, and then you and I are both gonna be, doing this for the first time, and hopefully, like I said, it's either gonna be a resounding success or it's gonna be a horrible failure. And if it is a horrible failure, chances are I'm not gonna share it. So anyway, that's my plan. So we're gonna we'll mix this stuff up and pour it, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So we'll be right back. Oh, this button I hate. All right, we're back. So I got the mold prepared, and I'm hoping this works out. So I got plenty of paper towels in case I have a horrible mess on my hands. But right now I'm mixing up the silicone mold stuff, and not much to it really. It just, according to the instructions, it takes a good 6 hours for it to cure, and so I'm getting it mixed up real good, and I'm gonna pour it in this mold. I hope that it works out. I really do, because this is just part 1. If it works so far, part 1 is this part, and then I have to flip it over, basically flip the thing over, and so we'll see what happens. But anyway, so mixing up the stuff, trying to not to get as many air bubbles in there as possible. We'll see how long it takes this stuff to kick off, but 6 hours at minimum. Probably I'm going to let it go for a good 24 hours before I try to demold it, and we'll see what happens.
The nobles whispered more than usual, and the air felt heavier. When they reached the throne hall, Vena was waiting for them. Unlike before, she was not alone.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'm doing this right. I imagine there's going to be folks in the comments that are going to be, you know, all over me about, oh, you're doing it all wrong. I probably am, because like I said, this is the first time I've done this, so we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. And hopefully everything goes. I did spray some mold release in there. According to the instructions of this stuff, you shouldn't need it, but you never know, man. And I'm going to find out if the Play-Doh is going to be a problem or not. So, where's the stick here? So yeah, we're going to see if using Play-Doh. I've seen people use it, and that's what they use, and I've seen other people say, no, don't use Play-Doh, for God's sakes. But I can get these little tubs of Play-Doh for less than $1, and the expensive clay that some folks use, you get a ginormous brick, and looks like that's just the amount that I needed to fill that mold up. Hopefully there's not too many bubbles. Hopefully. But we'll let that go like that. So yeah, this stuff goes by weight. I hope I mixed it well enough. I hate to have to do this all over again, because this is going to be a mess. But anyway, so there we go. We're going to go do this, let this sit. The bubbles seem to be popping. I can see bubbles popping, so that's a good thing, I guess. I know there's a trick to the resin using heat. So when we get to that point, we will have to see if it works. So that being said, we're going to let this go for now. And hopefully, when we come back, when we come back and demold this, that everything will be okay. So, fingers crossed. So, when we come back, we'll demold this and see what happens. Talk at you later. Okay, and we're back. So, in our last video, you saw me making a mold. Well, the mold has been made. And this is kind of what I came up with. So let's pull this apart real quick. Now, it's been a little bit of time has passed since we signed off when I, poured the original mold making stuff. So let me see if I can freaking bring it in there a little bit. So you can already see what I've got going on here. And this was the mold that I made, obviously. And so you see the original parts. These are over here, the original parts, and these are my resin parts. And well, the mold I made for these was I just yeah, just basic, you know, just enough to make these tiny little parts. I didn't make them. I tried to make it. This is definitely a learning curve. This stuff, this resin molding and stuff. I mean, I made several iterations, and dang, every time if I didn't get bubbles and other things, see the bubble there, and let's see, come on now. You see the bubbles there. Let me get that back in the frame. Bubbles there, bubbles there. I mean, it looks almost pretty good, doesn't it? You'd be surprised how many iterations of these I made. Yeah. So I kept trying to make full castings, and I made quite a few full castings of these things, and every single time, no matter what I did, and like I said, it is definitely a learning curve. You know, heat is with the resin anyway, heat is a thing that helps get the bubbles out, right? But you also have to make extra little vent holes. You see, these are vent holes, and I used a syringe, see? So you had vent holes over these parts. Let me see, try to get this stuff in the camera. So I had a vent hole in the front and the back of the mold. Tried to put them in spots that were, you know, that I could like sand off real quick. So I started off with the two, you know, one in the front, one in the back, or front back, and you know, and then, you know, something like this for the mounting pegs. Let's try this because you can see it. So the mounting pegs, you have to fill that type of stuff, or at least I did. You had to fill these first to make sure there was resin down in there. Otherwise, your mounting pegs that you're trying to recast aren't going to come out right. So, that being said, iteration after iteration, I could get it, and it was like almost complete here, almost complete. So like I said, it is definitely a learning curve, and you know, the more of these castings I made, the better it got. But just the air bubbles is always going to be the biggest issue. Like I said, heat is a good thing at getting the air bubbles out of the resin. I mean, you get a certain amount of work time with these resin, with the resin, you know, the 2-part resin, so. But so what I did is I would, because, you know, this thing ain't very big, so I was using these type, you know, and the resin and the mold material was, you know, by volume. So I had these little cups, and so let's zoom out here real quick. So, you know, had these little cups to make the resin mold. So, and you know, you're not, you know, and I was only using, you know, just a very minor amount, like maybe 10 mils at most, and hell, that a lot of that was because it was just. But so, and I was putting these when I get the resin mixed up good, I'd put it on top of a coffee mug warmer to warm the resin, and it did. It helped pull a lot of the bubbles out. Well, the first time I did it, I left it on the coffee warmer too long, coffee mug warmer too long, and it kicked off early on me, and I only got so much done, you know, because I was using toothpicks and all kinds of things to get down, like down in these little parts here, you know, where you've got the little bridge part. Let me go back here again. So down in this bottom here, I had to put resin down in there already. You know, again, just like with the mounting peg holes. So I had to get resin down into that thing there, or there would be a bubble in there. You know, and these nacelle things here, I had to kind of fill them with resin before I actually put the mold together. You know, and then these are just little things to help align the mold. So I mean, this is what I was working on in the last video, is just pouring this. Well, like I said, there was many iterations of this, you know, and I just kept having issues. And like I said, that first one, the resin kicked off before I was finished filling the mold. So then I had to make another batch just to finish. But every time I would get an air bubble in some place, you know, and so that's when I added more spots, because I was finding where I was getting the air bubbles most of the time, you know, down around in these areas where the nacelle and, you know, in some other places. So, because I'd tip the mold and I'd fill it until it started running out the top a little bit, and then I'd move it around. I mean, it was definitely a learning curve. So that took me forever. And then after a while, I just said, well, I'm going to get the best mold casting as I can, and if it's got a little imperfection, I will just fill in the imperfection with new resin and remold it, and that took a few tries too, and then I finally ended up with this. This is the best casting, the most complete. Had a few little imperfections here and there, but for the most part, this was the best one, you know. And I did have to do little touch-ups, you know, just to fill in a few annoying air bubbles. But this is going to be my working thing. So, you know, and it's a pretty good copy of what I've got there. So, and then with these, and you're probably not sure where these go. So I made some castings of these too, because I'm going to try to put lights in there. So, yeah. Anyway, so that. Of course I did. I didn't get my thing right. Now let's zoom back out here. All right, so now obviously the main thing is this is the part that I've got that I'm gonna do. Okay, that's obvious, and I'm gonna do these windows, and I've got a technique that I'm hoping to use that I learned from a guy. So these are the clear part. These are the other clear parts right here. These parts are these here, and I'm going to do my best to light these. You know, if things don't work out, then I've always got the original, and I can go back and put those in. But and this I'm not even going to try, because yeah, this is just, maybe I'll just put some white paint in there or something. But anyway, but yeah, so the clear parts that I made are obviously this part here. And then what I'm gonna do is, I learned from a guy, and I think I said something about this in one of my earlier, I should say. What dude did is he painted, like he did the Bandai Death Star, and he lit the Bandai Death Star, and then what he did is he scratched the paint off of the windows painstakingly, because you know how many lights are on the Death Star. And then that's what I'm going to do with these parts, is I'm going to paint them, right? I'm going to paint them, and then I'm going to scratch out these little sections here that are red, and then I'm going to put a little red LED behind it and light these, and that's my plan. You know, there'll be LED light in behind this as well. So anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And like I said in an earlier video, Legos. The Lego idea worked pretty good, but the only thing is unless you tape off the Lego bricks, it's like if you're making this and you got to tape off the Lego bricks, because then this stuff leaks. It'll leak right through the cracks in the Legos. And then I made these parts here, obviously, so when I molded the resin, I could put some rubber bands around this, and you know, and it would be relatively flat, and it wouldn't have any extra pressure on one side or the other. So yeah, that's what I did there. And yeah, so anyway, so with that being said, we are going, and like I said, I'm going to do this. It's going to be a process, and the time in between videos is going to be varied, or between episodes is going to vary, and but be patient with me, because if everything works out the way I want it to, it ought to be really cool. It ought to be a really cool process, and hopefully it turns out the way I want it to, because there's going to be some things that are going to challenge me for sure. And but I do hope that it turns out the way I want it to. And you know, if things don't work out, I've still got the original parts. I didn't throw anything away or anything, and don't worry about the black marks. But so yeah, I've got some painting to do and some other things to do that I want to do prior to running the electrical stuff, because there's things I'm gonna have to paint, and they're gonna be like I said, I have to paint this first. I'm gonna leave the inside unpainted. The inside's gonna be unpainted because obviously it's going to need to be a solid color. But I'm gonna leave the inside unpainted and paint everything on the outside. And if I have to go in on the inside, I'm just gonna light block areas that need to be light blocked or something. But because what I'm going to do is I'm scratching out the windows. That's the plan anyway, is I'm going to scratch out the window, paint off the windows, and that, it might not save any time, but it definitely, if I do it right and take my time on these little windows, it should look a lot better than had I tried to drill these out, because these aren't square windows. They're long and thin windows on this part. But that being said, we are going to keep going. Like I said, this might be a long process, and I said that from the beginning, that I'm going to take my time on this, and I've got some parts that I need to paint, and I'm going to do some other things here and there, and then we will return. All right. So that's just... All right, here we are back, and as you probably noticed, I've got something else going on here. So look at this. This is cool. I like this. So here. Anyway, sorry. All right, let's scroll up a minute here. Anyway, so as you can see, I'm back with some other things. I got this. I put another coat of gray on the outside of it, or I should say, yeah, I painted white and gray. Yeah, I got a white and gray, white underneath, gray on top. And I did, before I put another coat of gray primer on it, I did scratch out one of the windows. Oh, is it still? I haven't repainted it yet. All right, I don't know if it's gonna be able to be seen or not. But let me try here. So, I scratched out one of the windows. Yeah, whoops. All right, yeah, so just for shits and giggles, I scratched out one of the windows, which is what I was planning on doing anyway, and it come out perfect as far as I'm concerned. I still got to shoot another coat of my base color on here, But yeah, it scratched right off. You know, a little bit of work with my X-Acto knife here, and the end of this thing here, the toothpick or a toothpick, and it cleans up quite well. Let me get in this camera focus. Okay, so yeah, so far so good. It's working out the way I want it to. So all right, so let me get this out of the way here. So got that. Let's see what else. As you can see, I have got something going on here, and I got let me zoom out here real quick. Come here, you. Oop. Oh, that is out. Yeah, I'm still figuring that out. So I bought a Aztec kit off of Cult TV Man. You know, as you can see, it's come here, culttvmanshop.com. I'll put that link in the description. As you can see in my cameras, I got a better camera, but my camera skills are still crap. But as you can see here, I got the Aztecing paint masks for a Star Trek, the Enterprise refit, the 1/1000 scale refit. And so you kind of see how big it's really kind of hard to tell, but they're not very large. The saucer parts here. Yeah. So, and I'm just gonna try something here with the Aztecing. As you can see, that's kind of what they come like right there. And it's got all kinds of different types of things that are on here, and believe it or not, that Aztec Dummy channel, the guy that does that's his channel there, the Aztec Dummy, he does these paint masks, and I believe he sells them exclusively on the Cult TV Man website. They're not terribly expensive. So if you're doing an Enterprise and you want to do the Aztecing, yeah, check that out, because they're not terribly expensive. So anyway, they've got these ones here. I'm still trying to figure this out. So they got these ones here. They're the saucer section Aztecs, and they are they're like this. Let me get it. Let me zoom in here real quick. So, and I'm just trying to maybe break up the monotony of these just flat white panels here, and maybe put in something that will resemble. Now this here is taped over, so those parts just where this whole center piece here is taped up, because there's gray paint underneath that I don't want to paint over. So these little Aztec things, you got a positive and a negative, and it explains it pretty good on there. Go on Aztec Dummy, his channel on YouTube. So anyway, what I'm trying to do is just kind of break up this flat panel stuff, and maybe give it the illusion, anyway, of the illusion anyway of having whole panels, and that's the whole thing behind the Aztec stuff. And they didn't do it on the original Enterprise. It all started with the refit, the Enterprise, refit, Enterprise A, I guess you could say. And he's got the different decal or different paint masks for the different parts. So now, if you look at this this ship, the Protector from Galaxy Quest. If you don't know, Galaxy Quest is a Star Trek spoof, and that's what kind of got me thinking about these Aztec things, because the back part here is kind of like the saucer section. Let me go get the box real quick so I can kind of check that out. So yeah, this movie was a spoof on Star Trek. Okay, there's no denying that, and they admit it. So I mean, yeah, the ship doesn't look like the original, you know, the Star Trek. It doesn't look like Star Trek, but you can see the basic. You know, you got this. To me, this is like the saucer section. And then you've got the saucer section / nacelles. And then you've got the nacelle pylons here. And this would be like the secondary hull. Okay, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I don't know if it was upside down, I don't know. But anyway, let me get that out of the way there. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, at this. Is, you know, again, these are going to be kind of like the saucer section here, because they're curved, and these are designed for the curved surface of the saucer section. And like I said, the Aztec decal kit that I got is for the 1/1000 scale refit Enterprise. So the parts are a lot smaller, as you can see, a lot smaller. But it gives you decals, or not decals, but paint masks for the saucer, or for the secondary hull section, which I was going to use on the you know, the main hull of that. It's got, you know, for the pylons, which this to me is like the pylons, you know, because these are like the saucer section / nacelle in there. So I mean, here, you know, here you go. Very, you know, you can see the similarities without actually being a Star Trek property, but it's basically not. And it gives you, like I said, it gives you paint masks for the secondary hull there, and for the you know, the pylons and nacelle pylons, and the actual nacelles themselves, which I'll probably just use. That's kind of what I did here with this this part here. Let me get that back down there. Oops, my camera skills still suck. Yeah, so, and that's kind of what they did here. They wrapped around the, you know, wrapped around the things with this. That's this is this part. And he's put a bunch of extra little shapes and greebly type things that you can put on there, and it just kind of gives you the feeling of instead of just giant flat panels, that there are individual hull plates in these panels, and you know, you paint accordingly. That's the idea anyway. So yeah, this is my thing, and this is time consuming, because they don't come out in big chunks. They don't come out like this. These are all, there's little parts of these. You got the positive, what's called a positive and a negative, and they're both combined into one panel there. So that's how it comes off of the the sheet, which you can't see because it's even hard to see right in here in person. So these panels here come off the sheet like this, and in this sheet you got a positive and a negative, and you know, you put the positives down, and then you put the negatives down, and it kind of just breaks things up a little bit. So that's kind of what I've done here with these. I'm gonna do, and this is a bottom, and he does have these panels here. These panels here. There's a top. It's because it's for the saucer. There's the top of the saucer and bottom of the saucer, and they're similar but different. You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is the upper, and this is the lower. So you can see the little differences in there. And I am trying to work on my camera skills, but I got a lot of other things going on too. That's why it's taken me so long to get these episodes out. But yeah, and these are reusable, by the way. You can use them as long as you don't mess them up in any way. They'll peel off of there because they're just sticky, you know, not terribly sticky, but just sticky. And you can take these up once you're done with them and move them to somewhere else. So yeah, these panels, you can use them, I think, well, the larger ones, you know, that he does for the, like the 1/350 scale Enterprises. I think he said he gets about 3 uses out of them before they won't attach to anything. So I'm just gonna do these little things here. And on this bottom one here, I'm gonna do it up and see how it looks. Because it is very painstaking doing this. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And you know, it's taken me a long time to get these episodes and these things done up, because I do work. I'm not like some of these other YouTubers that this is all they do. You know, whatever their YouTube thing is, that's all they do. You know, I'm like a lot of other Americans. You know, I have to go to work, and I get a couple of days off at the end of the work week. Well, I got to cram in this type of stuff as well as other things that are more important than this stuff. And I did, I said in the beginning, and I hope people will bear with me. I'm hoping if everything turns out the way I want it to, it should be really cool. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get the painting all done before I start with the assembly and lighting it and everything else, because it's easier to handle things, especially when you're doing this kind of stuff. It's easier to handle these things and do the masking and painting and whatnot like this, in this. And he even suggests that, Aztec Dummery, he even says that on one of his things. But that it's a whole lot easier to do your masking and your Aztecing and whatever painting you want to get done. It's a whole lot easier to do prior to reassembly and lighting or whatever you're going to do at the inside of it. So that's kind of my plan there. So anyway, that's where I'm at with this right now. This is just, but I am making progress on it. It's just, it's just taken me a while because I have limited time to actually dedicate to this. And let me zoom out there. To actually dedicate to this. And there we go. But if everything works out the way I want it to, it should be really cool, I think, anyway. I hope it all works out. So that's why I said I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to get in a rush. I hope you folks will understand and be patient and just wait for the next, the next installment to come out. And I'm trying to have some progress, as I go. So, and this is going to be time consuming. If I'm going to do this one because I've got the most done on it so far. So I'm going to do this. This is a bottom piece. You got the bottom here and the top. I just had it together. Yeah. So you got the bottom, and the top. So if it's, well, that's not right either. There we go, Dave. You'll get it figured out eventually. So, you know, and I've got other things to do, but yeah, like I said, I mean, it's got panels in it, you know. There are panels. Here, let me get my fat hand out of the way. Get my little hand in there. I just gotta mix this potato with my little hand. You'll know the movie reference. But anyway, so you know, it's got whole panels, but they're just big, flat, smooth panels. And I'm hoping that this Aztecing stuff, like I said earlier, will give it, once I'm done with it, I'm hoping that it'll give it, you know, a whole panel kind of look to it. But it'll be, because I'm going to use, along with my base color and my top color, I might use some like ghost gray, and it's because my top color is going to be ivory, and because I just don't, the stark white is, you know, it's just white. But I've got some pearlescent paint that I'm going to try, and you know, I'm going to spray some pearlescent and maybe some ghost gray and some maybe light gray, and then my, you know, because I can put, you know, different colors on, you know, and I'm hoping it'll give it the illusion of you know, whole panels. So anyway, that's my plan, and that's where I'm going with this. So I'm gonna finish up putting all the masks on this one thing here. Like I said, that's taped up, that's got a color underneath, I'm just covering up. You know, different things like, you know, in these, there we go. So yeah, like here's a little square, and I'm gonna do some panel lining too. I was kind of debating between panel lining and pre-shading, but you know, so it's gonna have the panel lines. I'm gonna do some panel lining, but I'm hoping I'll also have the illusion of hull plates on there as well, and you know, all up in here, and these different things up here. So I'm hoping it'll work out, and that's my goal. That's my goal. So anyway, oh, Dave's camera skills better than ever. So anyway, like I said, I appreciate everybody watching, and I hope you're patient with me. I'm trying to get, but like I said, I got a lot going on with this kit. I mean, it's a basic kit, but I keep adding more steps to it. But I hope the trouble is worth it, and it turns out the way I want it to turn out. So that being said, tune in for the next installment, and like I said, be patient with me, and I do appreciate, you know, people tuning in just to see what kind of shenanigans I'm getting into this time. So anyway, I'll talk at you later. Bye.